I find that as I get older, the iron sights in my handguns get harder to see clearly. The more hard of seeing I get, the tougher it is for me to get good accuracy with my pistol. One thing I've done to help me get past this is switch several of my guns to red dot optics. Many gun companies are making it easier than ever to add an optic to your pistol. And while a red dot on a pistol may make it easier to see the sights, there is a bit of a training curve and some things to be aware of when adding a red dot to your pistol. Most red dot manufacturers advertise their optics as parallax free, and for the most part, parallax is minimal, but not completely absent. Parallax is the difference in perspective of an object from two different positions. With traditional iron sights, the sights align exactly parallel to the bore of the gun. Because a red dot sits higher than traditional sights, the red dot has to be adjusted or zeroed to a known range, which is where the axis of the red dot and the bore intersect. If you aim at something that is closer than your zeroed range, then the red dot will be higher than the point of impact. If the object is farther away, then the red dot will be lower than the point of impact. A good way to zero your red dot is to choose a typical defensive distance like 7 yards or 21 feet and use a laser cartridge like this 9mm Sightmark Boresighter. This cartridge sits in your chamber and shines a laser down the barrel. Simply align the dot on the optic with the dot on the laser and you will be right on at 21 feet. Move back a couple of feet and the red dot will be lower than the laser by about an inch. For a defensive pistol, this difference of an inch isn't going to change the outcome. The shot will still be effective at stopping the threat. For precision target shooting, it can make a lot of difference. Another problem people encounter when using a red dot is losing the dot in the sighting window. The way that a red dot works is that an LED emitter projects the light onto a slightly curved silvered window, and you look through this window at the target. Because the sights are slightly higher than the natural point of aim that you're used to with iron sights, there's a tendency to feel like you're pointing a gun downwards, and the red dot is above the window. This takes a lot of practice drawing and firing to change your natural point of aim from what you've trained with iron sights. A great way to fix this is to do a lot of repetitions with dry drawing and dry firing until you retrain your body mechanics and muscle memory to achieve the right natural point of aim with the red dot. While you're doing this retraining, I suggest only carrying one or the other and not alternating back and forth between a pistol with a red dot and a handgun with iron sights. And lastly, some optics are better at eliminating internal parallax. This internal parallax is the difference between where the red dot appears in the window and where the bullet hits. Some red dots, like this Romeo 0, can hit very close to where the red dot is projected, no matter where in the window you see the dot. Others, like this Vortex Viper, need the dot to be directly in the center of the window to hit where the red dot is positioned over the target. So not only do you need to align the red dot with the target, but you also have to move the gun until the dot is centered in the sighting window. The best handgun red dot I've tested for eliminating internal parallax is the DeltaPoint Pro from Leupold. Wherever the red dot is positioned on the target is where the shot hits, even if the red dot is way over on the edge of the window. Another major consideration is how you mount your red dot onto your pistol. Some shooters who are very attached to a specific handgun will send it off to a gunsmith to have a cut milled out. Before milling, you need to know which optic that you will put on the gun because different optics have different screw placement and dimensions. So if my slide is milled to accept a delta point, it will not work with a Trijicon RMR. The mounting screws will not align with the holes. Know your optic and let the gunsmith know so that they know where to drill and tap your mounting holes. Another way to mount your optic is to get a mounting system that replaces the rear sight by sliding into the dovetail. You push out the rear sight and slide the mounting plate into the slot left by removing the sight. Leupold makes a universal mounting system and a large assortment of mounting plates for different guns so that you can be sure to easily find a way to mount your optic without milling the slide. And lastly, many guns are coming with the option of a slide cut already milled, and then a cover plate is screwed on so that you can use the iron sights or add an optic mounting plate. This Springfield Hellcat is the OSP, or optical sight pistol, and it comes pre-milled and also has the screw-on cover. Some manufacturers are offering guns pre-milled with optics already attached. This Sig Sauer P365XL came with the Sig Romeo 0 already mounted to it. Something to look for is an optic that allows you to easily and quickly change the battery without removing it from the gun. Most red dot batteries allow the gun to stay on perpetually for years. This DeltaPoint Pro has motion sensing technology to deactivate the red dot when it's not in use, but it instantly springs back to life when it detects movement, extending the battery life when the gun is sitting on the nightstand. But even with up to 1,600 hours of battery life, eventually you'll need to change the battery. The DeltaPoint Pro battery can be quickly changed without loosening or removing the mounting screws. This Viper has to be removed from the pistol to get to the battery compartment and then re-zeroed after changing the battery. The same is true for this SIG Romeo Zero. When selecting your red dot, you need to determine the distance at which you are most likely to engage targets. This will help you select the size of the dot that you prefer. This DeltaPoint has a 2.5 MOA dot, which means at 100 yards the dot covers 2.5 inches of the target. The larger 6 MOA dot on this Romeo Zero covers about 6 inches of the target at 100 yards. At 50 yards it covers 3 inches, and at 25 yards it covers 1.5 inches, and so on. If you're likely to shoot at greater distances, say for handgun hunting, you may want to go with a smaller dot. The downside to a smaller dot at closer distances is that it can be difficult to see the dot because it is so small at closer ranges. However, at defensive ranges, it is extremely easy to see the dot and quickly get it on target and make the shot. Much faster than with iron sights. And to me, the last consideration is how to carry your newly optic-mounted pistol. Many of your favorite holsters may not have clearance on top for the added optic. If the top of the holster is enclosed, it likely will interfere with the optic. So if you're really attached to a certain holster, it's a good idea to find out if it will accommodate your optic. In some cases, a little work with a Dremel cutoff wheel and a file can make your holster work. In other cases, you may need to change holsters. Red dots are a great way to quickly get on target if you practice and train with them a lot. If you're not going to put in the time and the rounds down range, they will actually make you slower on target until you get used to where the gun is pointing when the red dot is visible. Sportsman's Warehouse has a wide selection of red dots and mounting options available. Check them out at sportsmans.com or see a knowledgeable associate at your local gun counter. I hope these tips helped, and if they did, give us a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button to keep getting helpful tips. Be safe, shoot straight, and have fun.